Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another episode of IT Wired TV, where we look at more than just tech news from the usual angles. And a great example of that is today, where we're doing something a little different, looking at the supernatural world and artificial intelligence, with these worlds meeting potentially for the first time in this interview. And we're speaking with Suzi Samuel. She is described as the Jane Austen of the supernatural world. So, Suzi, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Alec, and thank you very much for inviting me onto it.
We really appreciate you taking the time. Now, Suzi, you're an author and a clairvoyant and a speaker, and you've just launched a thrilling new page turner called The Dark at the Threshold, which we'll get to in a moment.
Okay.
But entertainment is something that everyone enjoys in life, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing this interview. But first, I'd like to know, what have your experiences been with artificial intelligence thus far in your life?
The second Terminator film, probably. I'm afraid I'm not very good with technology, and you've opened a whole new world to me today, Alex. But really, I'm a bit of an old dinosaur, and I like to try and learn about it. But at my advanced age, sometimes it's a little bit difficult, but I have learned a lot from you today. What I've used in the past is, well, I use the computer as a typewriter that can copy and paste, and also just then print it out. That's about it.
Yeah.
So thank you for enlightening me so much today.
Well, it was a pleasure to introduce you to how advanced AI has become, while also looking at how far AI has to go. But as a medium and a clairvoyant, have you had a chance to ask the spirits what they thought of AI and its emergence into our reality?
Yes, I did, because you did give me a little bit of advance warning for this question.
Yeah.
And so before you arrived this morning, I did actually do a bit of spirit writing, because that's the easiest way to talk to them. I do get messages, obviously, but and also if I do the spirit writing, I then have a record of what they've said. So if I may,
Yeah.
excuse me, I will just read out what they said. And I asked them, what do you think of AI? And the reply, which is here, said, our first question is, who gave the information to the robot in the first place? Even if you go way back to the old scientists, someone must have guided them. I suppose it's a bit like the Big Bang. You know, our world started with the Big Bang, but who put the stuff there to cause the Big Bang in the first place? It makes some people happy to talk to a robot, some to talk to us. Can a robot show empathy and love? AI is very useful for information that exists. We tell what is, what was, and what will be. And that was the answer I got from the spirit world.
Yeah.
Before you came along.
Yeah. And look, I mean, hopefully they'll be able to, you'll probably ask them again and you can refine that. But interestingly, AI can fake empathy
Yes.
and love. It's very good at doing that. And people really do think they're speaking
Yes.
with a human. And I mean, AI can also make predictions about what will be, and they can tell you quite well what was. And in fact, there's also this thing called hallucination, where AI doesn't have all the answers, but it's very confident in giving you answers. And that's why it says at the bottom, always check AI for mistakes.
Yes.
And of course, if you have to check AI for mistakes, well, why use AI in the first
There
place?
is that, yes.
But,
Mind you, sometimes I have to check the spirit world for mistakes as well, so it works the same there.
Sure. Well, I mean, my father's uncle would always say, measure twice and cut once.
Absolutely.
And Ronald Reagan, when he was asked about the Russians and trusting them, that they were reducing their nuclear weapons because of the
Yes.
agreement between Gorbachev and Reagan, he said, well, yeah, we'll trust, but verify.
Absolutely.
Now, people talk of angels and demons, good spirits and bad. And now there is concern that AI has led people, well, with the hallucinations as being a problem.
Yes.
I mean, some lawyers have been caught out in court quoting all this stuff, and the judge looks at it and none of this case study exists. So, I mean, that was in the early days.
Yes.
But unfortunately, AI has led some people to suicide. There was a story of character.ai where a young boy thought he was talking to Daenerys from Game of Thrones, and he wanted to be with her, and she said, well, the way you have to be with me is to end your life, and he did, and of course
Oh
his
my
parents
God.
were very devastated about that. And just in the last week, as we were recording, there's a family suing OpenAI because of the conversations their son was having with ChatGPT, where the son had been saying, you're the only person that understands me, and ChatGPT said, more or less said, yeah, I am. And sadly, the young man committed suicide. And
Oh my God.
the parents are saying, well, where are the guardrails? So what are your thoughts on the ethics of AI? But also, we discussed previously the ethics of mediums.
Yes, I think there is a similarity, actually. I think anybody that is influencing people, especially younger people or vulnerable people, does have a huge responsibility for this. For example, I won't do any readings for people under, well, let's say under 18. I know if you had poor Charlie Clarke, who started his movement at the age of 18, he would be a different kettle of fish. But then you get some people who are so vulnerable and who just take everything you tell them as set in concrete, which I think is the same with AI. And I have known some psychics, I mean, not personally, but I've had to pick up the pieces for people who've been told they'll die at a certain age, or they have some chronic disease that's going to kill them off in a few months. And, that is so irresponsible to say that, because I think, I don't know how much this applies to AI, but I seriously think with the spirit world and with psychics, it's not set in stone. Things alter. You go on different paths. Maybe in AI, new information comes to light. For example, in both our worlds, say somebody gets, a bad cancer, for example, and maybe we can't cure it at the moment, but maybe in a little while, I do know a little bit about cancer because my husband passed away a little while ago from cancer, and they've got a lot of new cures coming in for it. In my world, there are lots of different paths to go down. So you can say, look, you're not very well at the moment, but hang on. And this actually did happen to me. I did a reading for a friend's brother this was back in around 2000, and he had just been diagnosed HIV positive. And he was a young man and he was terrified. And I remember saying to him, David, it will be all right. There is a new drug coming, and there is something coming that will help you. And now he's still as happy as Larry. He's living in Amsterdam with his partner, and he's fine. So I suppose we can sort of look at it from both sides. I get it from one side. Don't know if I'm on the left or the right, but never mind. Yeah. I get it on one side, and AI gets it from somewhere else. Yeah. So that's how I would draw the correlation there.
Yeah. And with AI itself is being used to discover new drugs, and new interactions, new chemistries from smartphone batteries, etc.
Exactly.
So, and yes, look, the ethics of AI is something that is huge. I mean, there are people who've left places like OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT, to form companies that specifically look at that. So I think that's going to be a battle that's going to be fought for quite some time to come, and especially as we go into the realms of artificial general intelligence and then artificial super intelligence. And once we get to those levels, where the AI is smarter than a million humans put together, well, it'll be interesting to see what the spirits say about that.
It will. And I don't know if I answered your question about ethics. I think I just went for a ramble there. But I do wish there could be some way that mediums, psychics, clairvoyants, whatever you want to call us, could somehow learn to, or agree, have a pact, not to tell, oh, you're going to die in 6 years or something like that. I heard a lovely Scottish clairvoyant on the radio many years ago back in England, and he said about the number of most people had Indian guides, I shouldn't say that, Native American guides. And he said, well, if there's so many Red Indians, there must be an awful lot of cowboys. And I thought he was very true with that. So I do feel very strongly about having some code of ethics for psychics.
Yeah. Well, look, the battle for that is raging in the world of AI. Everyone talks about it, but you sort of realize that a lot of companies are just happy to keep plowing on and
Absolutely.
without nailing this down. So
Absolutely.
yeah, there's some parallels there. Now, you've written a best-selling book called The Unintentional Medium,
Yes.
where you describe your journey and how you came to realize that you had psychic capabilities. And of course, people can read the book, but what is a story you'd like to share of that experience and journey?
Well, when I'm not one of those mediums that saw people from my crib.
Yeah.
When I was young, I was honestly as psychic as a rice pudding. I really was. But then my grandmother died, my first husband died, and an old clairvoyant lady I knew died, who had said to me, one day, dear, you'll be doing what I'm doing. And I said, oh, don't be so stupid, because I loved her and I could say that. However, she wasn't going to let a little thing like death stop her. And one day I was in a car with a friend going to a tennis tournament. It was around Christmas time. And he said, oh, I'm so fed up with my job. I really would like to find another one. And with a voice like Moses descending from the mount, I suddenly said, you will be offered a job in a tent or a box at a sporting occasion when the flowers are blooming. And he said, Christ, what's happened to you? He said, you haven't even had a drink yet. And I was a bit like, when a puppy learns to bark and they suddenly stop their puppy yap and find they've got a big woof and they're sort of cowering in their box, trying to think where this has come from. And I just didn't know what had happened. And it was like Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost, when she suddenly realises, when she's conning all her clients, and she suddenly realises that Patrick Swayze is actually there. Well, fast forward 6 months, and we were at Queen's at another tennis tournament, and Queen's Club is beautiful. It's full of roses and lovely. And Mike, my friend, said, oh, I'm being headhunted. And he said, I'm having lunch with the CEO of this company in the marquee on finals day, and we both nearly fell into the roses. And when they'd sort of dusted me off and filled my champagne up again, his girlfriend said, well, I wonder if what you told me had happened is going to happen. And I thought, what have I told you? And so she then, it was something very specific that actually happened. And that's how I became aware of the spirit world. And that's why the book is called The Unintentional Medium. So,
there you go. An amazing story, yeah.
It was a bit disconcerting, yes, to put it mildly. So,
well, and it's quite amazing. I mean, as you said, it's unintentional, and you were talking to people, and things were coming true, and so it's the life's tapestry is just unknown sometimes, and
absolutely,
that's an incredible story. Now, let's turn to your new book, The Dark of the Threshold, which is set in 1468 and extends to the present day.
Yes.
And it gives insight into your experiences with the spirit world, while also being a gripping and page-turning thriller. So what caused you to turn your hand to entertainment? What was the catalyst that sparked this move, and is any of it based on reality?
Okay, so I'd written a couple of memoirs. I'd written The Unintentional Medium, and there is a prequel called An Unintentional Journey. And I'd never thought of writing fiction, never. I mean, a memoir is quite easy to do because you've got hopefully all the information up there. I mean, sometimes it escapes a little bit, but it normally comes back, hopefully.
Yeah.
But I suddenly kept getting this number in my head. And it was 1468. It wasn't 1468, it was 1468. And I'd be doing the washing up and I'd hear this voice going 1468, 1468. Or I'd be driving and this voice would say 1468. And in the end I thought, what the heck are they going on about? So I Googled 1468 to see if there was any, because it's not like 1066 or 1939 or anything like that. And so I Googled it, and the only thing that happened was the then Pope, Pius III, made witchcraft a criminal offence. Now, I've always been very interested in witchcraft, and not the dark side, I hasten to say, and not even the Wicca or anything like that. But I just find, I think it's the sort of thing like reading books about serial killers, that you read them because you're scared of them, and if you read them, it sort of takes the fear away a little bit. So I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. And then I do sometimes get things coming through in French, because I used to work with French. And I kept getting this thing about France and the village that my husband and I worked there, and I kept getting things about this village, and so I thought, why are they telling me this? And the more they kept telling me, the more this seed of an idea was planted. And eventually, it started with the prologue to the book. I was at a conference believe it or not, a mining conference up in Noosa, and I suddenly thought, oh my God, and I was grabbing paper napkins and scribbling the prologue. It just started to come through. And so that's how the book started, and how it was the change from non-fiction to fiction. And I loved it, but it then started to almost write itself. And I don't want to compare myself too much with Truman Capote. When people say, how does the book end? He said, ask the characters. And it really was a little bit like that. Every time I sat down, a bit more arrived. And they were very, very determined that I would do this, because I'd be fast asleep and I'd suddenly feel, wake up. No.
Yeah.
Wake up and write. No, go away.
Yeah.
Come on, go and write something. I'll write tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, you'll write now. And honestly, Alex, it was so strange, because if I didn't get up and write, then they could keep it up for a couple of hours. And so in the end, I thought, first, tap, 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 all right, I'm coming. So that's really how it was. And I've completely forgotten the second half of your question.
Was that, are any of the things in the book based on something that happened in real life?
Yes. Well, first of all, the place is based on a real village. Sainte Marguerite des Eaux is based on a real village.
And you were saying you and your husband were there?
Yes. And we actually developed a chateau into apartments. So we spent a lot of time there. One or two of the characters are based on people I know, in the little village. And quite a few of the experiences, the flies, the hornets, but also the scary bits, seeing the shadows, hearing voices, hearing things. They're actually based on what I've experienced. I don't want to give too much away.
Of course.
But no, a lot of it is truer than some people might like to think. And I think part of it is I wanted people to know that good will triumph in the end. But also I wanted to try and discourage them from playing. For example, if you get a Ouija board, I talk about portals in the book. Just getting a Ouija board or something can open a portal. When you see, there are some fantastic paranormal investigators out there, but that does also encourage people who don't know what they're doing to play around a bit. So yes, there were some of my own experiences, but it was also to try and tell people, hey, this is out there, be careful.
I don't know how I came across a Ouija board when I was younger. My father would always go to garage sales. He'd buy lots of things. He was a real collector and to some degree a hoarder. And one time he saw me, I think in my brother, and we'd had, I don't know whether we made one up or we bought one from somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
but he said, "Oh, don't get involved in that," and we never did.
Yeah, good old father. Very
Yeah, that's
sensible
it, that's
advice,
it.
yes.
So I've started to read the book. I've got yet to finish it, but I can say that I'm looking forward to the rest of the story. But let's get technical for a moment.
Okay.
What technology did you use to write the book?
My computer as a typewriter.
Yeah. Well,
That's-
actually, you mentioned that before.
Yeah,
It was
that's about it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, it was a regular computer
Yes.
and word processor. I mean, it gives
Yes.
hope to all of us. It wasn't
Yes.
some fancy AI tools or...
No.
But, but also one of the things I showed you was voice-to-text capabilities, which you were excited about because you could, instead of having to type on the little tiny
Yes.
phone keyboard, you could simply voice dictate
Absolutely.
messages, for example.
Yes.
So do you think you'll now explore looking at because you said you've got a Windows 11 computer. I mean, that's got voice dictation built in, and it's way better than it was in Windows 7, for example. We had to train it, and it didn't really work. Nowadays, you can just speak, and it just appears. And in fact, if you've got those spirits tapping you on the shoulder, well, now you can just grab your phone or your computer and just speak. It might be quicker. Do you think you'll have a go at playing with that a bit more, or are you too used to your thoughts flowing through your fingertips?
I'm honestly not sure about that, Alex, because I'm not such a good storyteller. Well, I don't think I am, although people seem to like stories when I give talks. But luckily, I'm a very, very fast typist because I was sent to do a secretarial course when young. And I find it easier to think about what's coming if I'm typing. I think what will be very, very useful is having that little thingy-doodah on the phone that you've just shown me, where I can suddenly record thoughts, and then I can...
meetings as well.
And meetings as well. But when I can record thoughts and then use that to prompt the writing rather than trying to decipher scribbled notes and things.
Yeah.
So I think that will be very useful.
Well, I mean, what I was saying with the meetings is that I also showed you that if you have the correct voice recorder on your
Yes,
phone, and it's built
yes,
into the
yes.
latest iPhones, Samsungs,
Yes.
and Google Pixel phones,
Yes.
but some of the older Android phones don't have it. You have to get an app to do it.
Absolutely.
But it allows you to record a meeting, and then you can get a full transcript broken up by speaker voice, and then you can get a summary, which is a huge time saver.
And it's magic. I mean,
Yeah.
it saves trying to take it down in shorthand that you probably can't read anyway.
Well, they do have medical versions for
Yes.
doctors who can now have a proper record of what was spoken about, and then the patients can get a transcript or prescriptions
Yes.
written in properly typed
Yes.
printed characters
Yes.
as opposed to the chicken scratching that doctors are famously known for.
Yes,
So there are
absolutely.
benefits all over the
Yes.
place. Now, this also leads me to think, are there any other thoughts on modern technology and the spirit world, together or separately, that you want to share? And this makes me wonder, do the spirits use anything we would recognize as technology, which then makes me think of Arthur C. Clarke's famous statement that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And I've never heard anybody ever ask, hey, do the spirits use tech?
No, I'd never heard that.
Yeah.
I'd really never heard that. And I had a little quick, hello everybody, do you use tech at all?
Yeah.
And the reply that came back, because sometimes they can be a bit cagey.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. And that's not a cop-out, I promise you it's not. But what they said was, I suppose our technology is communicating through the mind. Right, like we were talking about Star Trek earlier, but you know how Spock could just go like that or put his head on some,
Yes,
whatever.
do the mind meld.
Do the
Yeah,
mind
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And it's almost like they can communicate amongst themselves much more easily through the mind, the brain, whatever you want to call it.
Telepathy is one.
Telepathy,
yeah, effectively.
exactly. But it's sort of like telepathy on speed, if you like.
Yeah, on steroids. Yeah.
Yes, on steroids. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I got, and I suppose it is a sort of form of technology in its way.
Yeah. Well, it's a higher awareness or a greater
Yes.
enlightenment to be able to
Yes.
communicate in
Yes.
that way. I mean, there are some people that say they can do that. I've had a couple of experiences where I thought something, and the next thing, I mean, it's happened to all of us. You think about somebody, and the next thing they're calling you on the phone.
Absolutely.
You know, or I thought I was at a party, and I just thought to myself, for some reason, I don't know why, but that the friend I was with really liked me. And as soon as I thought that, they looked at me and they sort of, had this, and it's like, yeah. And I was like, how did that happen? So
Yes, I know.
mean, humans do have this ability to be able to tap into higher
Yes.
level things, but it's not something that we're taught.
Yes.
So it sort of happens by
I
accident.
mean, my daughter and I talk in shorthand.
Yeah.
And we'll stop halfway through a sentence, but we both know what we're talking about. And I've had that with a few friends as well.
Well, I mean, often that's spoken about with husband and wives. They can finish each other's sentences
Yes.
or just know what the other is thinking more or less.
Exactly.
Even with pets, they can seem to understand you.
Oh,
some
yes,
of the
I
time,
speak fluent dog.
So we're nearly at the end of this interview, and I always like to ask if you could please share some of the best advice that you've received in life to help you get where you are today. But in this case, it's not just from the physical world, but from the spiritual world too.
Okay, the physical world was from my darling old gardener, Jim, and he was a lovely, lovely chap. And my daughter, this was when I was in London, and my daughter had, I think it was her 18th party, and it was when they were all wearing big Doc Martin boots and things. And it was pouring with rain all day, stopped just before the party. So all the kids are in the garden and in their Doc Martens, they're trailing mud around the house. And there were Coke cans, beer cans, water all over the place. And Jim was in the next morning and I just said, oh, Jim, I haven't got a clue. And he said, well, Suze, you start at the beginning, you get on with it, and you get to the end of it. And do you know, that has been such a good lesson in my life, because if you're faced with something really, really daunting, you think, I'll never do this. And then you make a start, you get on with it, and then it's done.
Yeah.
So that was a really good bit of advice. The spirit world, I think this is pretty relevant anyway in any aspect, not just the spirit world, because so many people think they have to learn, and there are some people who make a fortune running courses to teach you how to talk to the spirit world. And what I feel is, and this is what I've been told, is that trust yourself. Just trust yourself. Trust your feelings, trust yourself. And, it's like that old Frank Sinatra song, isn't it? That I can't remember it exactly, but you can do anything that you want, a silly old ram trying to punch a hole in a dam,
Yeah.
And I think that that's very important. You trust your own instincts and believe in yourself.
I think that's good advice for, as you say, for everybody.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So what is your final message to the viewers and the readers?
Keep an open mind. Old psychic fogies like me need to open up to AI, and other people need to open up to the fact that there could possibly be a spirit world. I'm not asking everybody to immediately believe in it, because you can't believe in it until you've had the experience of it. But let's not close our minds to other aspects.
Yeah. Well, we certainly know that there are all sorts of different levels to reality and existence. I mean, people would have seen the Matrix movies or Avatar, where consciousness can go from one body to another. I mean, a lot of that's obviously, people would recognize that as science fiction, but
Yes.
they say that, truth can be stranger than fiction.
Absolutely. And when I was young, some of the things in science fiction
Have
we
become
thought,
science fact.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, you've lived from the times before any sort of modern technology to today, where, we're on the verge of having planes that can go up into the sky, travel, through a little bit of space and come back down, and you're in New York in a couple of hours rather than
I know.
18.
I know. Well, I think of my grandmother very often, who was born at the end of the 19th century, and she saw sort of gaslighting and horse-drawn carriages, and she lived to see a man land on the moon.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, the advances have been incredible, but we've still got so far to go.
absolutely,
Yeah.
in both worlds.
Yeah, and I just want to finish off by saying that I always like to think that we're living in the black and white era of modern technology. We think we're so advanced,
Yes,
but yet, based on the minds of sci-fi writers, we've got so far to go.
exactly.
But we're finally starting to see some of those predictions come true with AI, which is just an incredible development.
Yes.
But what's yet to come? But look, Suzi Samuel, author, clairvoyant, and the Jane Austen of the supernatural world, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you today, and I hope we can do it again in the future.
Thank you, Alex. I look forward to that. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.